So for this video, I want to show a build that I use on my Nidus. It prioritizes around taunting enemies and being a tank for your team. This works really effectively on defense, mobile defense, survival, stuff of that nature. Things that you're going to want to be that are very objective based, not very fast and run through to the objective. Which can still work on a higher level missions. It's very effective just for pure raw survivability. So that's one nice thing about it. So let me start off with the important part of this. Sylvan Aegis, either prime or normal. Mostly the reason you want to use this is because it synergizes really well with Guardian Derision, and you have the access of Avenging Truth. Now what Guardian Derision does is it taunts enemies, like for a more traditional tanking system similar to in WoW, you can taunt the adds that spawn. Now what Avenging Truth does is it'll add that +1 truth right there. That will fill up a meter based on XP gains, so you're going to want to try to stay within affinity range of your allies. And when that meter fills up, it'll do a mass proc damage to a lot of enemies. And this increase in next charge attack, it's nice, but you're not going to be prioritizing around that. Life Strike is also useful. It's good to have on there simply because if you need it and you don't have it, well then you're out of luck. But if you do need it, and it's right there. Reflex Coil's nice to have to counteract the Life Strike channeling efficiency. And then Focus Energy, another reason to do more efficiency. That's not as important, but what that does do for Sylvan Aegis is it makes it into a radiation proc. I like Final Harbinger because it's more of shield attacks opposed to 11th Storm, which is more prioritized around throwing your shield. And another thing with Sylvan Aegis is it has a passive proc buildup where when you're blocking with the shield, the more bullets you block, the more likely your next attack will proc your elemental effect. And you see right here it has a 90% damage reduction. So this is going to come into effect with Rage and Hunter Adrenaline. Because with the combination of these two, you get an 85% damage conversion to energy. And this is going to be your main source of energy regeneration. You could use Zenuric Waybound passive, but this should be for, or not Waybound, the Zenuric dash energy bubble thing. But this build shouldn't have to have that considered into effect. I like using Rejuvenation, but another good option is Physique, simply for an increase to health regen. Both of these synergize real well with Nidus. Rejuvenation synergizes because he already has a plus 15 heal rate, and Physique simply, it's just more health. And Rejuvenation is also really good for your teammates because most people won't have health regen. You want to find a good balance with this, with good armor and good health without sacrificing too much of health. I believe 900 armor is a 4 times multiplier to health to represent effective health. So with this you have about 5,200 health effectively. And then that coupled with the 90% damage reduction from Sylvan Aegis blocking is very good. It's nice to have ability duration so that your 4th ability you can fully utilize the healing effect of it for yourself and your allies. Strength as well, so it ups the healing effect. That's really what you want for your abilities as far as that goes. But all the other mods should be focusing into tanking roles, such as health and armor. That's about it for the mods. Let me spawn in some enemies and show this in action. Okay, level 125. So the main objective with this is you're going to want to build up your stacks up to about 19. That way you can get full potential from your kit. And when you run out of energy, you want to taunt enemies and take damage. That way you can rebuild, take full advantage of the energy restore. But also, as long as you're hitting more than 4 enemies with this build, you'll be gaining energy with your first power. And then you want to cast these 2 powers, that way you can not have to worry about your health, and then you can also sit in here and heal while the damage is being mitigated. And just keep building up those stacks. The purpose of this is to fully utilize the stacks, using the 15 stacks to come back to life. Because it doesn't really affect you much if they're just sitting there. This allows you to roam to protect, so you can draw aggro off your team, and you don't have to be worried about reviving. Now see, I've run out of energy, so all I would have to do is taunt them, which I'm doing, as long as my maggots don't get on them. Okay. And if my maggots had not gone, oh, here's a guy. He'll be able to damage me, and I'll be able to gain energy. And you see, I'm not gaining much energy right now, opposed to when I turn around, because the taunt is an AoE. So you're only going to be getting that 90% damage reduction when they're attacking you from the front. But you want to do this to gain energy. That way you're never out. Now if you want to put a flow or prime flow, something that increases your energy, that is useful, but you will be sacrificing one of those mods. Personally, if I were to do that, I would probably sacrifice Rage, simply because it gives me less of the energy restore benefits. And but having increased energy will simply give you more to just sit on. Now, let me show you this, let me take it into an actual mission. Level 125 is very unlikely. The only place you would really see level 100 enemies would be in a extremely long survival defense or a sortie. So for demonstrative purposes, I'm going to be running the Sabotage with the Kuva Flood, simply because it's an 80 to 100 mission that's quick and easy access to me. I'm going to be running it in solo because I want to show off the survivability of this build. Typically, I would be going into a mission with my Helmuth Charger, but since I'm solely displaying this build, I don't find that as important. However, it is very useful because since you're building Raleigh for defensive measures, the Helmuth Charger is a great option for damage.
My intel suggests a rich enemy supply caches in the area, but I am unable to pinpoint their exact location. Search them out if you are willing to shoulder the added risk. Those are the Queen's braids. What are they up to?
Relax, child. You won't feel a thing. Promise. Wait, what is it doing?
That worked. Target the others.
And if you have your operator unlocked, it's very useful to be able to use it for survivability. For example, if you get low health, you can switch into it quickly and then get to a new location. And you see, since your stacks give you more damage, more ability strength, there's not much need to initially put that into your build, because you're going to be gaining damage throughout your stacks. Oh, shit.
What a voice.
Cool. This is a pretty good example because it shows that there's an objective. This is one of the better missions that is useful to use a build like this, because there's high level enemies, relatively difficult ones, and there's a relative objective.
work, Tenno. We need to do everything we can to stop the queens from gathering any more Kuva.
There it is.
Oh,
Right for
he's in limbo. This is going to be a raw survivability example. I'm not going to attack them. But just remember, I will die here. But just remember, in a real scenario, you'd be using abilities, you'd have your companions killing people. Your maggots would also be killing people. And your teammates would be killing people. This is me solely just taunting. And seeing how long it takes to die. And you may have noticed by now that on the top right you can see the Arcane Guardian proccing. That's very effective because right after the Shrines update, or Shrines of Eidolon, they DE buffed it to where it now adds 600 more armor. Just adds a raw 600 armor. So if you remember from my stat, I had 915 on my base Warframe, but with that proccing, I'm getting 1,500, 1,515. See? Now I can just recast. Block damage. I have a 23 health regen. I'm actually gaining health. And your maggots also work very well as CC, as you can see from this Drakmaster. And the heavy gunner. Not to mention the healing benefits that you give to your team. And like that, I'm back up to max health. While taunting without physically ever attacking anyone. Now purely without the health regen and just the third power being cast, this is what we have here. So essentially the maggot CC is all that's been removed. I'm probably going to go down here soon. But my mutation stacks are going to kick in before I truly die. Maybe. Well, maybe I'm not going to die. Should die soon. Some burst damage should do it. There we go. And then once that happens, you just build your stacks up again. Just keep casting that first power. And see, already used the 15. You can also proc your heal. More CC. And your third power. And build stacks. And there you go, you've already got the 15 that you've used. So there you go, you've seen the strength of this build. Like I said with the Arcanes, I wanted to show that off real quick. If you don't know what Arcanes are, they're additional upgrades that you actually put on your appearance items. So I have mine on the Arca Braca, on the Braca Prominence Sign Donna. And you see right here, on damage, 20% chance for a plus 600 armor for 20 seconds. And you get an additional revive. So that would bring my total up to 1,515 armor. Another thing I'd like to note about this build is that Handspring is actually an Exilus mod. So the ability to add Prime Flow or Intensify, you have room to upgrade this build a little bit to more of your liking. But I do want to make a couple notes about adding strength mods. Is that if you're adding increased strength, what you should be looking for is a more healing approach, to be a more supportive Nidus for your team, because you're not going to get as many stacks because you're going to be killing your enemies faster. I do have a little bit more healing, so strength, so I'm doing more damage, but I'm not doing 200%. So I'm still being able to get quite a bit of stacks from a few enough enemies. And duration really is, it's going to help you on your 4th power, and kind of, it depends on your 2nd power, whether or not there's a lot of enemies or a few enemies. It could hinder you with there being few, because if you cast it on, say, 2 enemies, and then there's a larger group of like 6 enemies, you can't cast it until you've either killed those enemies that you've already casted, or its duration runs out. So not going crazy with duration is really nice. Efficiency, it doesn't really affect you that much due to the fact that Virulence refunds energy, and it refunds a quarter of what I have. So that's what I was saying with you wanting to hit 5 or more enemies to gain energy, where if you're only hitting 4 enemies, you're going to only be getting back what you've spent, which is still good because you're still getting the mutation stacks. And again, having a companion, that's going to increase your survivability because there's going to be less enemies alive. So those are my final notes. If you liked the video, hit the like button. I appreciate just the views though. Thanks for watching.